taking questions. Don't we sort of have a tendency, like Mark? Yeah, Mark just asked me a question, and most people have the tendency to walk towards Mark and listen and have a dialogue and answer just to Mark. Do we see this? Do we do this? Right.
Yeah.
So what happens when we do that?
Close off everyone. Yeah, you just
Close off everyone else.
Your voice doesn't project to the side of the room, depending on the size of the crowd.
yeah.
Text messaging might be starting over here, right? I saw them earlier, right? That will happen. You have to keep your entire...
We were texting each other that
Yeah.
you were really good.
Yeah.
We did. Telling you the
Could you
truth.
send me a copy of that?
You know?
Oh, thank you.
So, just something that you said, and I agree with it completely, but I'm thinking back to the debates that they had during the presidential election, where they had open forum kind of, people from the community coming in, and somebody would ask a question, and Obama or McCain would pick up the microphone and walk right towards them and say, well, Mark, let me tell you what this is all about. And I always thought that was the wrong thing to do.
It is the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely, because he was...
He hasn't had any public speaking skills coaching. Or he has, but not by me.
But he's the
He's
president.
very good, though.
Yeah.
Though he does have the mic.
Don't you think there's an element that they're also playing to the camera or something?
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
That's-
I tell you, people always bring up the debates, the politicians, the presidents, and I don't think we can really compare with them. It's a good point, and I look at them. I was watching Michelle Obama give a speech. She was one of those, college speeches. What are they called?
Commencement.
Commencements, thank you. And she did something that nobody should ever do, but we all do it, and we have to practice it. So there's no fault to her, and everything that you see. So here's what it was, is she used notes, which was great. Notes are important, and she used them very well, except a lot of times what we do is we end our sentence looking down. You want to read your sentence and look up. Oprah Winfrey does it beautifully, because I know she's got teleprompters there, right? I think she does, and I see her look, and then she looks up, she says, looks at the audience, that last one. So something we do automatically, keep that in mind. So even Michelle Obama isn't perfect. No one's perfect, and who knows what they're doing. But it's a good point. It's a good point. And here's the other thing I tell everyone. No matter what I tell you, most importantly, if something different works for you, then do it. It's all about what works. If your audience is engaged, I have, I always tell people start center stage, front, and don't start in the center, don't walk. I have a friend who's a professional speaker, he doesn't do that. He comes in from the back. That works for him. It won't work for me. So everyone tells him, start front, but no, that works for him. So whatever works for you.
And does he start speaking from back there, or does he just
Yeah,
walk over?
he does.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but it works for him.
It's a different entrance, a different way of engaging people, something different that they're not used to. So everybody's, and then he brings it up front to center. So you're right, it's a different way to.
Right. And he can pull it off.
Beginning.
He can pull it off. And not to say that no one else could pull it off, but that's just an example of he's not taking what the coaches are telling him he should do. He's doing what his gut is telling him to do, and his personality is telling him to do. And I'll tell you this, I don't care if you don't do anything that I teach you today, or what that you learn, or that you read, or that 2-day class that you went to. If you do one thing, who knows what that is?
Be yourself, but
Yes.
I can't agree with it.
Okay, convince him. Think of the best speaker you've ever seen, ever. That you've ever seen. Most likely he was just himself or herself. And maybe did everything wrong. Maybe paced back and forth, maybe had nervous fidgeting. Probably not, because when people are just themselves, they're comfortable with themselves, they're there for the audience, they're going to let you see them totally, and then the audience will be engaged and focused. Most important thing. All right, so I'm going to skip on to closings now. Yeah, skip on to closings, and then we're going to get you up here. What? Yeah, Hank's first. Because he's the most scared. Okay, so strong closing. Now, have you ever read a book And, or how about this, imagine, I'm sure you've all read a book, imagine, that's another thing, don't ask stupid questions. You know, I mean, that's, you know, it's, I've had people say that, you know, raise your hand if you don't have a computer. No, or no, raise your hand if you don't know what FedEx is. I mean, it was just a stupid question, and you're insulting your audience. Don't insult your audience, right? So, have you ever read a book? That's sort of insulting, probably. You're probably like, why are you asking me that? But you can rephrase it, yeah. You can rephrase it like, have you ever read a book? Or imagine reading a book, and you get to the end, and there's no last page. And they say, sorry, we ran out of time. Well, that's what a speech is like. When we end on questions, or we end because we ran out of time, and we just say, that's it, I have no more time. We want to end our speech after questions, because we said it earlier, this is your one opportunity, or your last opportunity, to remind your audience what you want them to remember most. And it's usually the benefits to them. So you sum up your presentation, the highlights if you want to. There's no right or wrong with the closing, there's lots of different ways. The most important thing is, how do you want to send them away? For example, I could easily say, use these skills I've shared with you today and go out and become a great presenter. That's all I need to do. I could bring back a story that I opened, which I might do in a little while, or a quote. A lot of times with a bike trip, I tell you I open with that bike trip story, which is a lot longer, and then I'll close with, on that first week of my bike trip, one person flew home because she couldn't imagine 52 days, 3,700 miles, long hills, headwinds, I can't do this, I'm going home. That same week, the youngest man on the trip, 21 years old, fell off his bike and broke his collarbone. He made the whole trip. And for me, I took the advice of the tour director the night before we started. He said, imagine you're going out for a bike ride every day, one day at a time. So how we perceive ourselves is what we can accomplish. Take one day at a time, one goal at a time, and one speech at a time, and become a great